Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here is the video that you came here for with a job that is multi-layered. That's the University of Texas. It was the first one to open up. Chris Beard obviously suspended back in December. Chris Beard fired back in January. We discussed all that. He obviously had the charges dropped over the last couple weeks. So we will talk about Chris Beard as a candidate for other places. But Texas was the first to open. I think Texas will ultimately end up being probably the best job that opens this year, depending on what else, it depends on what else opens, what kind of candidate they get. Could somebody leave for the NBA, etc. But what I would say is, while we don't think about Texas as an elite college basketball job, I am here to tell you, in college basketball circles, coaches revere the Texas job. And we talked about this a little bit when Chris Beard was hired. Because at the end of the day, Texas has everything that you need to win at the highest level. The job pays well. The facilities and resources are through the roof. They just opened that brand new Moody Center. Obviously, they were playing in the Irwin Center, which was like a library. That Moody Center is loud. It's vibrant. It's a great place. It appears to watch college basketball. I have not been there yet. But beyond that, why Texas is considered a great job, there's a few other reasons. One, you're headed to the SEC. Whatever the newest iteration of college sports looks like over the next couple weeks, months, years, whatever, we know Texas is going to be fine. And then most importantly, Texas has turned into a high school basketball hotbed. Everybody thinks of New York City and Chicago and wherever, Detroit, as these elite basketball cities. The bottom line is Texas is starting to recruit or starting to produce basketball players at an insane level. Think about all the high school players that have come out of Texas over the last couple years. This year in college basketball, Anthony Black at Arkansas, McDonald's All-American. Jordan Walsh, McDonald's All-American from the Dallas area. Keontae George from the Dallas area. Cason Wallace from the Dallas area plays at Kentucky. In previous years, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, RJ Hampton, Julius Randle, the Harrison twins. I could go on and on and on. Justice Winslow, who played at Duke. And so because of that, that is why this job is so highly thought of. If you have access to that many good players, it is a place that coaches want to be. That was why Chris Beard wanted this job. It was why I was actually frankly curious, and this is the last time I'm going to talk Chris Beard with Texas, I promise, but it was why I was curious to see how Beard did there, because it felt like he was the guy that could tap into everything that Texas is capable of being as a head coaching opportunity. But I bring it up to say this. Chris Beard, I think, also unlocked within Texas the idea and the understanding of how good this job is. And my understanding is that Chris Del Conte, the athletic director at Texas, fully understands how good his job is, fully understands how much money he has to spend, and he is going to pursue the biggest names that he possibly can. Now, in terms of the job itself, who could be available, it is first worth noting, Rodney Terry, the current interim head coach who took over for Chris Beard, I still think he has a shot. Now, I don't think that shot is as good as it was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that Texas was atop the Big 12 standings alone in first place. But they have now lost 5 of their last 7 games in the rugged Big 12. It's not here to criticize Rodney Terry. It's here to say that this conference is tough, but they've lost their last 2. They've lost 4 of their last 7 overall, and 5 of their last 9. This program is trending in the wrong direction. And at this point, I do think it would take a pretty deep NCAA tournament run for Rodney Terry to keep the job. We're probably talking a minimum of the Sweet 16, but realistically, an Elite 8, a Final Four is probably what's going to keep him there. If he does not get there, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting this job, because I do believe it is going to attract high-profile candidates. It's going to pay well. It wouldn't totally stun me if this was one of the two, or whoever gets this job is one of the 2 or 3 highest paid coaches in college basketball going forward. And like I said, I think Chris Del Conte, their AD, is going to go after some really big names. The first name, been linked to the job since day one, John Calipari in Kentucky. When this job opened up, I told you, I said, I think Texas is interested. I think John Calipari is interested, but part of it is on John Calipari to have success, right? If John Calipari goes to the NIT, which he is not going to, but if he goes to the NIT, then realistically, Texas, I don't care if he's a Hall of Famer, probably not going to go hire a guy that's coming off an NIT appearance. Well, he's righted the ship at Kentucky, and really you start to look at everything going on, and it's multifold. One, I do still believe that Texas can sell, hey, we just hired a Hall of Famer. Two, he's going to bring the #1 recruiting class in the country with him. And three, I think Calipari, let's just say I've heard he's a little bit frustrated with everything that's going on at Kentucky. I thought it was interesting. After the Vanderbilt game on Thursday, he did one segment, I believe, of his radio show and then let Orlando Antigua, his lead assistant, do it and just said, man, I'm tired. It's been a long year. And it's a weird relationship between John Calipari and Kentucky fans. I think most fans are reasonable and rational. There are plenty, though, including those holding up signs at Kentucky games this year, hey, go to Texas, that have had enough. And so, again, if Texas decides to call, I think he's going to listen. Now, Texas can't come in with a half-you-know-what offer, a half-butted offer. They got to come in over the top, at least match what he's making at Kentucky on an annual salary, whatever. It's got to be a situation where it's good enough to leave, but I still think he is very much in the mix. Do I ultimately think he ends up there? I still think he's back at Kentucky for next year with that #1 recruiting class. But again, Texas wants a big name. Calipari, I think, at least wants to flirt and all that good stuff. So that is worth monitoring from the Texas perspective. Some other names that I've heard, this one is picking up some buzz. I don't know if I believe it. People are saying Texas wants to kick the tires on Kelvin Sampson. Houston, as I record here, is the #1 team in the country playing Thursday night against Wichita State. I don't know that I believe that one. It's not that I don't believe it. I think they'll call him. I just don't know if Kelvin Sampson is leaving Houston at this point, at this point, right? Kelvin Sampson is right now 67 years old. Doesn't scream like start over somewhere new, no matter how much money you're getting. He's got a good setup at Houston. I don't think it's ever been officially announced, but his son, it feels like, is in line to get the head coaching job after he retires. Also, Houston now going to the Big 12, so they're not going to have to scrape and claw in the AAC. Those long plane rides to Philadelphia to play Temple and to this place to play them and to that place to play them. They're going to play a lot of schools in Texas. The competition level is going to be up. They're not going to be off everybody's radar in January and February. They'll have high-profile games. They'll get comfortably into the NCAA tournament. But I just don't know, at 67 years old, does he want to start over? And is that appealing to a Texas program that in 2 or 3 years you're going to have to hire a new head coach again? Because unless he's Jim Boeheim and plans on coaching forever, Kelvin Sampson would probably have a 3, 4, 5-year shelf life at Texas. Couple other names. First of all, could Texas go kind of the young up-and-comer route? I think they could. Jerome Tang, the Kansas State head coach, is from Texas. He was a Texas high school basketball coach before, of course, going to Baylor, where he coached for a long time alongside Scott Drew. Is that somebody they could call? A few people actually asked me about Dennis Gates. Now, my understanding about Dennis Gates, he's got a massive buyout, $12, $13 million a year. Basically, every dollar on his contract would be owed to Missouri if he were to leave. Don't know that he is really a candidate, but I'll give you 2 more names to just keep an eye on, and we've talked about them from day one. The first is Eric Musselman at Arkansas. And I'm just saying, Arkansas fans, I've been telling you since day one. Now, Arkansas fans will say, greatest program in the world, we're in the SEC, we're winning, our NIL is great, Muss has everything he wants here. I agree with that. What I would also say is the bottom line that you need to know. His buyout, again, unless I'm misunderstanding things, is about $2 million right now. That is nothing for Texas Texas has $2 million sitting in the AD at Texas probably has $2 million sitting in his glove compartment, in his car, just waiting for something like this. And so I've said since this job opened up, I said there were two schools. Get your coach on the phone and get an extension signed. One was Alabama. They did it with Nate Oates. Two is Arkansas. And it does not appear as though Arkansas and Eric Musselman have agreed on any type of long-term extension. A $2 million buyout is nothing. If I'm Hunter Yurachek, that contract should be on Eric Musselman's desk. I would make him sign it. If not, I would be leaking to everybody the contract's on his desk. What is he waiting for? I cannot believe that they have not inked him up to long-term deal. The other name, I'll just say this really quick. I've heard some buzz that our buddy Mick Cronin, Big Mick Energy, that he's starting to get restless at UCLA. UCLA is kind of a weird place. I live in LA, love the fans, but it's kind of a weird fan base. They're going to the Big Ten. It's going to get tougher. You're going to have 5-6 cross-country road trips a year in that conference. The travel is going to be tough. The road environments are going to be tough. And oh, by the way, he could lose most of his team this year with obviously Jaime Jaquez is a senior. Tiger Campbell's a senior. Amari Bailey, Adem Bona probably going pro. Not saying it will happen because Mick Cronin has, if I'm reading his contract correct, an insane buyout. I think it's probably even too much for Texas, but that's just another name to consider.